WordPress Security Power Tips. Hello and welcome. In this video session, I'm going to share with you insights that I have learned about better securing a WordPress site. Before I begin, just keep in mind the Art of WordPress SEO course actually did have a htaccess file template. Now, the reason I'm showing you these two is because this htaccess file will be available in the video description of this video lesson, okay? And this will be the updated version. So if you have invested in this particular course, use the updated htaccess file directives. Furthermore, if you're utilizing some security plugins for your WordPress site already, then they may actually generate some htaccess file directives automatically. Now, if that's the case, when you're utilizing any directives that I will share with you with this htaccess file, what you can do is you can back up your current one, make sure you have access to your web hosting manager, then whatever is within these comments, you can perhaps grab one portion, paste that into your current htaccess file, and work your way through that manner, because then that's much intelligent to use most of these directives available for you in the description of this video, okay? So now that I've got that out of the way, let's take a look at WordPress security. WordPress is popular. It is the most popular content management system on the planet. I think it's like 20% of internet is using WordPress. And that is millions of websites, right? Because of that fact, there are some funny people, hackers and so on. What they do is they end up using programs. And they just blast off searching the internet for WordPress sites that have loopholes where these hackers can exploit. I work with clients who had their website hacked. And I worked with clients, as in I optimized their website for valued clients who didn't even know that their website was hacked. As you can see, it can be very tricky to have a foolproof, fully secure WordPress site. Perhaps we can even say that's impossible on internet because we're dealing with technology here, right? For that reason, we have to then be active in making sure that we do what we can from our end. And if we do that well, then those hackers, unfortunately, will move to some other WordPress site owner's website, so to speak, okay? There is unfortunate because you and I, we don't want some WordPress user, as an owner of a website, being hacked, right? But either case, it is you who has to then, first of all, your dashboard is yours. If you're using your WordPress site just for yourself and for your business, then only you should have access to it, right? But if you have members or membership site where other people log in, then mentality of securing your WordPress site and what you can do differs. In either case, learn to oftentimes change your passwords and use strong passwords. When you log into your profile, you can generate new passwords and save them. I'll show you a program that's basically has been a lifesaver for me, right? Because many years ago, I used to use programs like Excel to record my username, password, right? Well, you and I, we can't do that in 2016 because imagine trying to remember a password that is like 20 characters with all symbols and so on. Programs like password managers, like KeePass, this is an open source program. Very easy to use and learn. And you basically create entries. And when you create entries, you can set them to expire. You can give your username, and open up password generator, select strong patterns, and perhaps 22 or even more, it's totally up to you. Save those complex patterns for your password. Then look what happens when we simply let programs like this generate strong passwords. Now what I can do, perhaps every month with just 2-3 clicks, keep changing my passwords. And if you were to provide the URL for your login screen, you can actually use programs like this to quickly log you into your WordPress site. So let's move on, because I just want to share with you great insights that you can easily use as well, right? Passwords, you probably already know that already, right? If you utilize one-click apps to install your WordPress site, keep in mind your web hosting account may allow you to make backups. And some modern web hosting providers, not only they allow you to do automatic backups, some of them allow you to send that backup to an external server using FTP. If you have that option, utilize that. Because if your WordPress site gets hacked, unfortunately, then it is more than likely that those hackers will have access to your other files, folders, and your web hosting account. And if that's the case, and if you have backups on the server itself, then these hackers may end up doing funny things in those backups as well. And that will be difficult for you to find. For that reason, it's smart to back up, but do so externally, or at least download your backups regularly. There are many programs on internet like service providers called WordPress. They use a program to automatically back your WordPress site up, entire site up, for a small fee as well. I actually use this for all the clients who hire me to optimize their website, to have that peace of mind. So keep that in mind, okay? So let's take a look at some other things. Here we have our PHP MyAdmin. So first of all, let's go to Files, File Manager, because I'd like to show you a couple of things that you can actually do here as well. There's a file called WP-config. If I was to edit that file or view it, this is how it's going to look like. I'll show you my local copy, because not only it's color coded, it's actually commented out for you as well. Okay. For your next install, not for your current site, for your next install, remember by default WordPress table prefix is something like this. So you can actually change this to be something else, always making the hacking script's job harder, because they always rely on defaults. Okay, let's go and take a look at this particular file, because it's a very important file. Your database name, the user for that database, and the password for that user of that database is all within this file. So if you oftentimes get an error establishing database connection, then this is the file to triple check to make sure that the database name, user for that database, and the password all match. Now, unknown to most WordPress site owners, you can actually change the user for that database as well as the password for that user as well. I'll show you quickly what I mean. Let's look at our databases. Press on MySQL databases. Now we're looking at this screen. It's blurted out for privacy reasons. But now within this screen, your web hosting account will show you different screen if you're not using crazy domains, right? But most of them, like HostGator, GoDaddy, SiteGround, what else? So many others. They all have options for you to easily create new users for your database. It is just a matter of creating a new user, give a name, new password for that user, create the user. Then next step is add user to that database. Now once you do that, then that username, the new username, can be updated in this file, and the password for that username can also be updated in this file, okay? So then if you end up changing your password on your dashboard and then make a habit of changing your database username and password as well, then that's always smart for securing your WordPress site. Because it's not smart to wake up one morning saying, oh my goodness, my WordPress site is hacked. But what's worse is that WordPress site can be hacked and be unknown to you and I. That's worse because we're thinking all is okay and yet it isn't. Then we have the salt keys. We can go to this URL and generate new salt keys, copy them, and replace our current ones. If we're logged in, then we probably have to log out from our dashboard. Now, I'm not even going to explain what you're seeing on the screen right now. I'm just going to pause and show you this. So remember, table prefixes, don't change this for your current WordPress site. I'll show you what they look like as well, so you know exactly what's going on. When you're logged in to your web hosting account, let's browse into the main section. Here we have databases. If we press on PHP My Admin, it will take us here. All these tables and all the plugins that you're using reside in a database. I'm using it PHP My Admin. Let me show you another program for accessing database because it's more cleaner now, right? You can see these are the comments tables of when people leave comments. This is where it's being stored. All your posts are here in WP _posts table. Now, through PHP My Admin, I actually don't know how to conduct the entire search. I do know, but it's complex. So you may have to Google about searching these search patterns of your database. Using SQL YOG, I can search the database for certain words, eval, and what this program has found in the database is this particular line here. Here I have to say, okay, what is this? Do I know what this is? Another search pattern you may like to conduct is called base 64. Let's search for that as well to see what shows up for us when we search for these keywords in the database. Or eval base 64 _ decode. This is a well-known method of hacking WordPress sites. So if your database contains terms like these, then you want to know why that is. Right? So perhaps it's a security audit you might like to consider. So let's move on. Now we've got that two out of the way. Let me close these. It's making... Okay. The htaccess directive is now available for you. I'm actually going to make this particular template file available for you as well, with all these comments for you as well. Well, here let me show you a smart method to debug your WordPress site. Debugging is absolutely important for security reasons as well. Right? Most people have WordPress debug set to false in the wp config.php file. That's never smart. Instead, you can go to your file manager. I'll show you here as well. Here you can browse up on the root home directory, create a new folder, name it anything you want, for logging, create new folder, and in that folder create a new file called debug.log. Create that file. Now in this particular file, which is the config.php, right? Now you can set debugging to true and set the debug display to false, and use this if debug is set. Then change the debug log path to be the folder name you've created, and now you can safely debug your WordPress site, because this is absolutely important. Whatever you do, you should have your debugging enabled. But when you follow this method, then you're debugging securely so people can't see what's going on, especially hackers. If they end up seeing there's things wrong with your WordPress coding, then they may find loopholes accordingly. So now you can safely debug to keep your WordPress site working perfectly, because now debug will show you any errors. Then you can safely remedy them. Now while here, let's go back to our public folder. Let's go to WP-admin. Within this folder, you can create a new file and call it .htaccess file. But remember where this is located. It is located in this particular folder. And within that file, you can utilize these directives, which will be available in the description of this video as well. All you have to do is change what I've just highlighted here to match your IP address. Basically, when you utilize this method, then you're denying access to the admin folder, but allowing access to the admin folder coming from your IP address, if you're using static IP address. Internet service provider will explain that if you're unsure, okay? But that's another method for securing your WordPress site. Keep in mind, WP-admin folder is where we place that particular .htaccess file. Because the other one, I'm going to name them intelligently so you can make the distinction, okay? Because this particular one for Apache servers, when you log into your Google Webmaster Tools account, Fetch as Google will actually show you what server you're using and what version as well. Okay, let's go under public_HTML. Let's create a new file and let's call it test.php. Create that file. Let's take a look at test.php. Let's edit that file because it's empty now. Let's place these PHP code, and within those PHP code, let's just echo PHP info function. It's a built-in PHP function. Just these 2-3 lines. Let's save the file that was called test.php. Now I can see the PHP version info. So if you utilize this method, that's exactly what's going to happen for you as well. So let me delete that file so I don't forget it. Now make sure you also delete that file afterwards, because here we're seeing what we can do with our server. So therefore, right now, the directives within this particular complex .htaccess file, some of them may be enabled by your server, and you can find that through that PHP info information. But nonetheless, as I've said at the beginning, you can perhaps grab some of them and work your way one by one to utilize these server directives. particularly the ones for security, where I've said begin security till end security here. All what's within here, I've commented them out so you actually learn a little bit more about what these things do. The only thing that you will require to change within what is in the security section of it is, okay, if you're using SSL HTTPS version, you can safely uncomment this particular line to use htaccess for securing. There is administrating over SSL, okay? But if you're not, then you can simply delete that particular one. Another important factor that I'd like to place in here, what I'm going to do is actually delete these. You can look at your log files. I'll leave these in here because these are the known spammers, referrer spammers. Okay, so it's totally up to you to either keep them, delete them, and so on. Okay, I'll delete the deny from IP up to here. Because with this directive, we're blocking access to .htaccess file and other important files and so on. Yes, there's another one here. This for comment spam. So you would replace that with your domain. Okay. If you're not using Jetpack plugin, you can actually comment that. When you press hash, that's a comment. What comes afterwards cannot be seen by your server, but remember always to back up. If you're utilizing SSL, then there's actually these directives. These are very important. Furthermore, there's a couple other ones here whereby you can uncomment to disallow access for file mods, because sometimes you can edit files through your dashboard, including plugin files. If you're utilizing editors of dashboard, then learn for plugins, disable them first, as in deactivate, then edit any changes, okay? So let's wrap it up. Strong passwords, your databases. You can create new users with new passwords and make a habit of changing them as well. Do security audits through searching your database itself for funny keywords that hackers use. You can utilize backing up options, whether paid or like WordPress or web hosting one-click backups. If you utilize web hosting, learn to back up externally. It's only smart. Utilize strong passwords. That is absolutely the most important insight that I can share with you. And always learn to back up your entire WordPress site, including your databases. These directives that I am sharing with you is collection of many years of learning and testing different things, because this is my bread and butter. Makes sense? So I need to know these. When I make the plugins, they have to be absolutely error-free as best that I can. And creating 4,000 lines of code, then you end up learning different security procedures and so on. At the end of the day, WordPress Codex has hardening WordPress, security options and so on. At the end of the day, it will be totally up to you to be active in securing your WordPress site. Because what you can do is you can make it hard for the hackers to hack your site. Because that's all we can do. We just can't take precautions on. Because the better that precautions are, then harder it is for those hackers to take advantage of your hard work. I thank you very much for learning with me. And keep in mind, there's a new plugin available which I believe is absolutely the best WordPress plugin out there, will add structured data automatically. Thank you very much, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.